They accused her. They almost destroyed her life. All because a child went missing. No proof. No questions. Just accusations. The crowd gathered. The anger grew. And things almost turned deadly. But what they didn't know was that the truth would shock every single one of them. In a noisy corner of Lagos, tucked between a mechanic workshop and a small roadside bar, stood an old building the locals called Blessing House. Nobody really knew why it had that name, because nothing about it felt like a blessing. The building was long and narrow, with 2 rows of tiny rooms facing each other across a tight corridor. 10 rooms on one side, 10 on the other. This was a face-me-I-face-you compound, the kind where privacy doesn't exist. Every door opened straight into the corridor, so anyone stepping outside immediately faced their neighbors. If a husband and wife argued, the whole compound heard it. If someone cooked fish stew, the smell traveled to every room. And if someone tried to hide a secret, it usually lasted less than a day. At the far end of the corridor was the shared kitchen, blackened from years of kerosene smoke. Beside it stood the bathroom, the only one for 20 families. And behind the building, the toilet waited under a rusty zinc door, squeaking loudly every time someone opened it. Life in Blessing House was chaotic. Children ran barefoot through the corridor, playing from morning till night. Women cooked outside their rooms while gossiping about neighbors. Men returned from work sweaty, tired, and grumbling about bills or missing water. Yet, somehow, people survived. They adapted to the noise, the lack of space, and the endless rumors. Every resident had a reputation. There was Mama Sod in room 1, famous for waking up at 5 every morning to fry akara and shout at lazy customers. Brother Musa in room 5 was a commercial driver who returned home every night smelling of engine oil. Aya Kemi in room 7 borrowed sugar from everyone but never returned it. But the rooms that caused the most tension in the compound were room 3 and room 9. Room 3 belonged to Mama Tola, a market woman whose voice could shake the entire corridor. Room 9 belonged to Ngozi, a quiet seamstress who rarely spoke to anyone. And those 2 women were like fire and petrol. Mama Tola was loud, opinionated, and always suspicious. Her 6-year-old son, Tola, ran around the corridor like he owned the place. She loved him fiercely and kept a close eye on everyone around him, especially her neighbor Ngozi. Ngozi, on the other hand, was quiet and mysterious. Slim, in her early 30s, she moved into the compound 2 years ago. She came with nothing but a sewing machine, 2 bags of clothes, and a calm, unreadable face. Unlike other women, she never joined the gossip outside. She stayed in her room, sewing for hours into the night. Her quiet nature made people suspicious. In a place like Blessing House, quiet people always had secrets. The first spark of tension came one night when 3 strangers arrived at the compound. It was past 11, and the generator had been turned off. The corridor was dark except for a small solar lamp by the entrance. The men walked straight to Ngozi's door. Mama Tola, watching from her window, saw them carrying a large black bag. Ngozi opened the door silently and let them in. Then the door closed, leaving Mama Tola staring in disbelief. From that night, the gossip began. By morning, everyone was talking. Who were those men? What were they doing in room 9? Is Ngozi hiding criminals? Or is she involved in fraud? Even the children noticed something unusual. Little Tola, while playing football, kicked his ball toward room 9 and saw, just for a moment, large boxes and a big bag inside Ngozi's room. That was enough to confirm to him something was not right. And that was when suspicion took root. Mama Tola's imagination ran wild, the women of the compound whispered behind their hands, and little Tola went to bed that night certain that room 9 was hiding secrets. Little did they know, what was about to happen next would shake the entire compound to its core. Days passed. The tension in the compound grew quietly. Every movement Ngozi made was watched. Every visitor was questioned. Every silence became suspicious. And then, one hot Saturday afternoon, everything exploded. The sun was high in the sky over Lagos. The heat pressed down heavily on the compound. Most adults were inside their rooms resting. But the children were still outside. Running. Laughing. Playing. At the center of it all was little Tola. Barefoot. Sweaty. Happy. He kicked the ball hard, laughing as it bounced off the wall. "Mama. See my goal," he shouted. From inside her room, Mama Tola replied lazily. "Don't break my plate." The ball rolled again. Slowly this time. Toward the compound gate. Tola ran after it. And that was the last time anyone saw him. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Children moved around all the time. But minutes passed. Then more minutes. And slowly, the compound became quiet. "Where is Tola?" one child asked. "He went to carry ball," another replied. But something didn't feel right. Inside room 3, Mama Tola called out. "Tola, come and drink water." No answer. She sat up. "Tola." Still nothing. Her heart began to race. She stepped into the corridor. "Where is my son?" The children pointed toward the gate. "He went outside." That was all she needed to hear. Fear gripped her chest. She ran. Checked the street. The shop. The mechanic workshop. Nothing. Her voice broke. "Tola." Within minutes, the entire compound was in chaos. People rushed out. Doors slammed open. Women abandoned their cooking. Men began searching everywhere. Under beds. Inside the bathroom. Behind the building. But Tola was gone. And fear slowly turned into suspicion. Then someone said it. The last strange thing in this compound was those men that came to room 9. Silence fell. Slowly, all eyes turned toward Ngozi's door. Mama Tola's fear turned into anger. She marched forward and began banging on the door. "Open this door." Bang. 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 Others joined her. "Open it now." The door opened slowly. Ngozi stood there, confused. "What is happening?" "My son is missing." Mama Tola cried out before she could speak again. The crowd pushed inside. They searched everything. Roughly. Desperately. Boxes overturned. Clothes scattered. The sewing machine almost fell. Ngozi's voice shook. "Please. I don't know anything about your son." But nobody listened. Anger had taken control. And anger does not think. It destroys. The situation was seconds away from becoming something worse. Then suddenly, a small voice echoed from the entrance. "Mama." Everything stopped. Slowly, they turned. There he was. Little Tola. Dirty. Tired. Alive. Holding someone's hand. Beside him stood the landlord. Mama Tola ran forward and grabbed her son tightly. "My son. My son." She cried uncontrollably. "I was looking for you everywhere." Tola looked confused. "I was following Daddy. I wanted to go to the market." The landlord stepped forward. "I found him near the main road," he said firmly. He was walking alone. Then he looked at the crowd. At the scattered room. At Ngozi. His voice dropped. "You people almost destroyed this woman." Silence. Heavy silence. No one spoke. Shame filled the compound. After a while, Mama Sod asked quietly. "Then, those men who came to your room?" Ngozi sighed. "They are business partners." Confusion spread across faces. I am a fashion designer, she said softly. They want to help me open a shop. She pointed to the boxes. Those are fabrics. Not secrets. For the first time, the compound saw her clearly, not as a mystery. Not as a threat. But as someone trying to build a future. That evening, the compound was unusually quiet. Mama Tola stood outside room 9 holding a bowl of soup. Her voice was soft. I am sorry. Ngozi looked at her, then smiled gently. In a place like this, people see things, but they don't understand them. Days later, life continued. Children played again. Women cooked again. Men returned from work, tired and sweaty. But something had changed. People thought a little more. Spoke a little less. Judged a little slower. And sometimes, Mama Tola sat quietly beside Ngozi, watching her sew. No shouting. No suspicion. Just silence. Understanding. The moral of the story is that, in places where people live too close to each other, they hear everything, but understand very little. Rumors travel faster than truth. And fear can turn neighbors into enemies. But sometimes, the greatest danger is not the secret behind a closed door. It is the story people create, without knowing the truth. If you were in that compound, what would you have done? Would you have joined the crowd? Or stood for the truth? Tell me in the comments. Because not everyone would make the right choice. If you like this story, give it a thumbs up, share it with your loved one and subscribe for more stories that speaks the truth. See you in the next one. Bye.